My name is Average Joe, and I'm a proud geek with expertise in movies, superheroes, and animation.
And my name is Pixel Patch. I'm a joyful geek with an expertise in gaming, both tabletop and video.
Our mission is to bring nerd culture to the masses.
And by sticking it all under the microscope.
Welcome to the Bat Jar Podcast.
Movies, TV, mega comic books, or is that graphic novels, cartoons, groups, that's animation, Disney, Star Wars, Dragon Ball Z, Pokemon, and Digimon, and Mighty Morphin, Power Rangers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Yu-Gi-Oh! And Nintendo, Cinematic Universes, Marvel, DC, Justice League, is Batman, Leagues with Superman, Flash, Wonder Woman, Avengers, Iron Man, Captain Jack, Loki, Spider-Man, and Hulk and Logan, X-Men, Battlers, Allen, Galaxy, Guardians, Star Trek, Prick, Trick, Card, and Janeway, Nerds and Geeks from gather around and join them in the Big Bad Jar, Average Joe and Pixel Patch, they peek under the microscope.
Hello there, and welcome to the Bat Jar Podcast, where we put nerd culture under the microscope.
And it took two of us this week to put it under that microscope. It was a lot of work.
Yep.
It was some heavy lifting. We should take smaller sample sizes, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
But no, you know what? Biting off more than we can chew is a very nerdy thing.
Mm-hmm.
Binge it. Just binge it. Yeah. No one will notice you're missing for a week.
On that note, it's time to welcome our special guest for this week. We have once again with us Ben the Movie Buff.
Woo-woo.
Hey, how are you? Thank you so much for having me back. I always have such fun doing this, and I've been working a lot, so it's nice that I managed to find a free evening where I was able to do this, because who knows how many months it will be until I come back on this show again.
Too many. Always too many.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's what it's going to be, definitely.
Even one week.
Well, we always ask the question when guests return, what kind of nerdy, geeky stuff have you been up to since we last saw you?
Right. I thought about this a little bit because I knew this question was coming, and to be honest, not that much, just because I've been busy with currently been working on for my job. But when it comes to nerdy things, I've spent a lot of time, of course, looking up about the Oscars and keeping up to date, who's been nominated and this and that. And I also was planning recently a list of 10 movies that if I get a day off where I'm able to do this in the next few months, I'm going to try and do a movie marathon of 10 movies, because last year I beat my record of 6 with 8. So 8 movies is currently my record. But I feel like I need to get to at least 9, and hopefully I'll get to 10. So.
And is this in one sitting or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, like, I'm going to get up and go to the washroom and get
No.
some snacks. But it's going to be like in one full session. Like the whole day will be dedicated to just watching movies.
If that's on a weekend, please invite me.
Sure,
Yeah.
no, absolutely. Yeah.
I will join in for a 4-hour stint.
That's right. Yeah, you can join us for two or three of the movies.
Yeah, I have ADD, so I'll only last like a couple of movies.
Yeah, that's right.
Man.
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh about that. That's nothing to laugh about.
Oh, it is, because I think it's hilarious. It's the most amusing part of my
I feel like
personality.
that's one of those things that you're allowed to laugh about and I'm not.
That's right. Yeah, but other people.
Okay, well, you know what? You're currently allowed to laugh about it until I tell you otherwise.
Okay.
Boom.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
We're all good here. Look at this man.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, he's too poor to pay attention.
Let the laughs go. So really, that's the nerdiest thing I've done so far, is just Oscars coverage and keeping an eye on and trying to figure out what movies I'm going to select for my next movie marathon. So hopefully I can do that before our baby comes into the world, July 19th. My wife is expecting. Very exciting stuff. So I
right
thought,
in time for the Lion King remake.
Exactly.
And you can lift the baby up in the theaters.
I will. Yeah.
Was it Stars with Stroller?
That's very funny, sir. Now please sit down so we can watch the movie.
You put him in a little lion outfit and everything.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're like the you're one of a few of our podcast guests who are either having children soon or have had children recently.
Yeah.
Because Dr. What and PC Laugh are expecting a baby.
Oh, cool.
And there's lots of marriages happening as well.
Yeah.
Cackles
is getting married. Yeah.
And, Rob Cakel. It's all lots of stuff happening.
Yeah.
Well, that's very exciting, and we're happy to have you with us because
Thank you.
we are going to talk about the Academy Awards today.
Goody.
We're
I was
recording.
going to sing the theme, but I realized I don't know the theme for the Academy Awards. Can anyone hum it?
I think it changes.
It changes every year.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Just do something like that.
Okay, there you go. Perfect.
That's the Oscars theme.
So we're recording this ahead of time because I'm going to be on vacation when this episode goes out. So there's no news stories today because they'd be out of date. So sorry.
I'm out of touch. I'm out of love. All right, there you go. I got my song in.
So we're talking about the Academy Awards today, and longtime listeners of the podcast will remember that about a year ago, we actually did a whole episode on the Academy Awards, and we discussed the history of the Oscars, what it takes to become a member of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. I think that's what it's called. And we also talked about how does a movie get nominated? How does the voting work for Oscars? Because those are questions a lot of people have. So we're going to do something special today. We're going to start this episode by doing some time travel.
All right. Wow. I didn't. We developed that tech over the past week. You guys need to keep me updated on this. This is too much.
I thought I saw a DeLorean outside. So there you go.
There you go. It's very difficult to. It's difficult to do in a blizzard.
Yeah. No, that's right. Yeah, but we'll make it happen.
Yeah. Average Joe pulled it off.
I've got Doc Brown on speed dial here, so I'll call him if there's any issues.
What do you mean, Marty? No.
That's right.
1.21 gigawatts.
That's right. Yeah. 88 miles per hour.
What the heck's a gigawatt?
And we won't even be able to go into the past because we don't know what miles per hours are. It's all kilometers
That's
here.
right. Yeah, exactly. So we have to go. Yeah.
You know, when I saw that movie, I didn't connect the difference between miles and kilometers, so
Okay.
I thought they were talking about 88 kilometers an hour.
And you're like, wow, that's.
And I'm like, that's nothing. I drive that on back roads.
Must go faster.
But nonetheless, we're going to do some time travel, so we're going to take you back to the conversation Asian John and I had a year ago talking about how the heck does a movie get nominated for the Oscars, and how the heck do people actually win these darn things.
Yep.
And,
so...
Fist fight? Gladiator battles?
Hey, that's right. Yeah.
All right, we're going to go into the time machine now, and
All right.
we'll figure that out. So
Cool.
You join the Academy by sponsorship. You don't fill out a membership form.
Gotcha. Okay.
In order to join the Academy, you have to be first working in the film industry. That's obvious. But then second, you have to be sponsored by 2 members of the Academy. So you have to have 2 people who are already members to basically vouch for you in your application. Or if you're nominated for an Oscar, or if you win an Oscar, that's all you need for sponsorship.
Okay.
Because the Academy has formally recognized you for your craft.
For your excellence.
Yes.
Yeah.
So basically at that point, then it goes to a, what's it called? They go through an admissions committee.
Okay.
So and then the admissions committee reviews all the applications, and then they send them to the Academy's Board of Governors.
Cool.
And the board gets final approval on who receives official invitations to join the Oscars.
Nice. So, question.
Yes.
When do we get to the part of this that's interesting?
This is interesting because people often ask, well, why are certain movies being nominated and why are others not?
Okay, so let's just shorten that. Okay, so who are the people that got in?
They don't, and that's the thing. The membership of the Academy is a secret. We know that in 2014 there were 6,124 members.
Okay.
So it's roughly about 6,100 people that are in the Academy.
And roughly, I guess, at least maybe hundreds of them would be winners of Oscars.
I think again, I'm not sure.
I mean, how many people win an Oscar?
It seems like in the beginning it was a lot of sponsorship and friends getting their friends in and vouching for each other type of thing. But if you think about it, there's 24 categories of Oscars presented every year, and times 90 years. So that's I'm not good at math.
I mean, a lot of those would be dead, or you know what I mean. So,
yeah.
I mean,
so I think I'm going to make the assumption that the majority of people who are in the Academy are people who have won Oscars or have been nominated for Oscars.
Okay.
And I just learned this today, but 2 years ago they put in a criteria that once you've been brought into the Academy, they check in with you every 10 years to see if you're still working.
Oh, I see.
And if you haven't been working in the last 10 years, they can revoke your membership.
Right. Okay. So you can be like just an old retired exec that hasn't done anything in years, and you're no longer in the Academy.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay.
So, and that's only a recent development in the last couple of years.
Now, that doesn't mean they necessarily will revoke it. You're saying that they can.
Yes, that's right.
And we don't know if they do or not?
That's right.
Okay.
So the Academy is very secretive. But in theory, the purpose of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences is to be a collection of people who are representations of excellence in this industry.
Sure.
Because it's people who have been previously honored and acknowledged for their contributions to film.
Okay.
So in theory, the people who are voting on the winners of the Oscars every year are people who should know what they're talking about.
Sure.
Okay?
But they're voting in multiple categories that aren't necessarily just their own, right?
So then this is the next part is we're trying to figure out why the movies that got nominated this year got nominated. The Oscar voting process is ridiculously complicated in my opinion.
Okay.
For one thing, there's a list of criteria a film has to meet to even be nominated, to even be put up for consideration. They have to be at least 40 minutes long, with the exception of the short films, obviously.
That as a category. Yeah.
It has to have aired in theaters for at least 1 week. and it has to have shown in the LA County for some reason. I guess it's important that it airs in Los Angeles.
Maybe so that people can actually see it who are members of the Academy.
I guess that's true. And then obviously it seems like the most obvious one to me is that it has to have been released in the calendar year that they're honoring.
Mm-hmm.
So films that only get like a one day or a weekend release would be ineligible because they didn't get the length, and then it also has to have been played in Hollywood. So, so even just for a film to get on the docket for consideration, it has to be like meet those criteria, which most feature films meet it. So it's not that big of a challenge. And of course, there's the exception of, I think, with foreign language films.
Yeah, because it's a separate category. Right.
So what happens every year is that the Academy puts together a giant list of films. It's the list of basically eligible films. Mm-hmm. And they send this out to all the Oscar voters. Mm-hmm. And when you're voting for the films to be nominated, you only vote for the category that you're part of. So if you're part of the director of photography branch or the cinematography branch, you are only allowed to vote for the cinematography. In other words, movies are being selected by their peers.
Sure. Not just so an actor is not selecting a producer.
Correct.
Or
costume
or
design or visual effects.
That makes sense. But you're saying, when it comes, you're talking nominations, not the actual voting of the winner.
That's right.
Okay.
So there's actually a two-step voting process, because there's the process to even get nominated to be one of the official nominees, and then there's the voting to actually get the Oscar, the actual Oscar voting. All the Oscar voters are sent this list of contenders. Mm-hmm. Each person votes for their specific category and for Best Picture. So everyone's allowed to nominate films for Best Picture. And it's a preferential voting system, not unlike what we use in the Bachelor podcast.
Sure.
You have to essentially rank your top 5 choices.
Sure.
So that means if I think, Batman from 1989 is the best film of that year, I would write Batman as number 1.
Sure.
And if I think Back to the Future 2 is
so you're saying
best,
if your first choice didn't make the cut, then it'll sort of move on to your second choice as your official vote?
That's right. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, there's a
that's also like voting for party leadership in Canada.
That's right.
At least in the Conservative Party.
And the accountants from PricewaterhouseCoopers do all the math to calculate all this stuff, and there's like a magic number and stuff that I don't really understand. But the point is that even to get nominated, you have to essentially get these preferential votes from people by the people in your category. Mm-hmm. So in order to even get your movie nominated, the Oscar voters have to know about it. Mm-hmm. So movie studios and distributors host these campaigns. They're called For Your Consideration campaigns, which means they'll host parties, they'll host concerts, they'll host private screenings.
Right. So if they believe in something, they're essentially trying to market to as many members as possible.
Correct.
Now, seeing as they don't officially know who the members are, unless they know some of them because they know who's won Oscars recently.
Yes.
Right? But they don't know who a lot of them are, so they're just, it's a crapshoot. They're like hoping.
Well, I think that I would hope that the membership of the Academy is known to the people in the Academy. Mm-hmm. Like if you're a member, you would know who else is in the Academy.
No, that's true. But you're saying it's members of the Academy that are throwing these events?
No, these are like the studios that
That's what I'm saying. It's the studios doing it. So yes.
They're
not sure if members of the Academy will actually see it.
Correct.
They're hoping. They're basically shooting a bullet and seeing if it hits.
Yeah, like that Adam Ruins Everything guy was talking about it. He said there was one movie they sent out gold watches to people.
Right.
They'll send free copies of the movie to people to watch at their home. Yeah. Because especially if it's a more obscure movie, there's a chance that people won't have seen it. Mm-hmm. So you need to get into the hands of the Oscar voters.
Yeah.
So you need to throw parties, campaign. It's like you're running an election.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to essentially get your candidate out there so that the people who are voting know about it.
Yeah.
Because you can imagine that list of consideration that the Academy gives to people has hundreds of movies on it.
Right.
You're not going to remember what every single movie you saw that year was.
For sure.
So that's another battle that a lot of these more obscure movies are facing, is they have to compete with all these other ones.
Yeah, for sure.
But okay, so the WaterhouseCooper people tabulate the results, and you get the official nominees.
Right.
And then they have their little ceremony that they just had last week for this year, where they announce who the official nominees are. Well, once those official nominees are announced, they then do a second round of voting. So Oscar voters then get to vote
among
on,
the nominees.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think, I could be wrong, but I think at this stage of the game, everyone gets to vote for everything.
Okay.
So that means that Emma Stone, who's won an acting Oscar, is
Yeah.
able to vote for costume design and all the other
Right, gotcha.
Oscars.
Okay.
And again, it's a preferential voting system. So if a movie has a lot of like second or third place votes on people's thing, it might actually benefit it
Yeah.
in the long run. Because that means that, you know, it gets, if the top choice doesn't get counted, the second choice or even the third choice gets counted towards, you know, the movie that has votes elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
People have made the argument that essentially what this leads to is a lot of mediocre films getting a lot of points, because if it's kind of middle of the road on a lot of people's lists,
Yeah.
it will essentially boost its overall numbers because it'll get counted more towards it. And I since I'm not good at math, I can't really understand what they're saying, but it seems like a system that's designed to benefit mediocrity.
Okay. Yeah, I don't quite understand it either, but in the end of the day, nominations are just nominations. It doesn't mean you're standing on the podium.
That's correct.
At the end of the day, you'd hope that the absolute best performance or whatever, you know, masterful work is the one that wins.
Correct.
Right.
You would hope.
Okay.
Now, do you think it's fair that everyone votes for everything at the actual voting level? Do you think that they should just stay with the vote for your category?
That would well, no, because I think sometimes people, that actually narrows it too much, because I think a lot of people can have tunnel vision within their own system. Like imagine everybody in the world thinks that so and so is the best dancer in the world, right? Let's say
Shakira.
like let's say everybody in the general public believes she's the best in the world, but people who are in the dance world know of somebody that's far better, right? Now, it may be true that they might actually have their own internal bias within their own system too, whereas the general public might be like, actually, but I just like Shakira's dancing. Let's say they're like, oh, she's just got one move, but I don't care, I like it. Whereas technically there's somebody else better, but you're basically saying, oh, the public doesn't know anything. It can be quite elitist by being so narrow as to be like only people in the craft know what's best. Whenever I'm producing any media, I'm actually not as concerned about my peers in media saying whether something's good or not. That's why when I'm doing like final edits, I show it to a person that knows nothing about the technical process to see if the layman finds anything weird.
Interesting.
You know,
because what you're saying makes me think of even T.C. Laff, who very much criticized Emma Watson's performance as Belle and her singing. When I saw the movie, I thought she sounded great, but I didn't have. She's kind of like on the inside track with theatrical production and singing.
I mean, there's probably better examples and categories, but the point is, I think a lot of people who are in the craft might be looking at all these really technical details, but not looking at the overall heart, which is being communicated to the public.
Okay.
They might, that is possible. That does happen all the time, So I think it's good maybe to open it up to a bit broader of a perspective.
Okay, so in your opinion, it's a good thing that the experts kind of pick the nominees.
Yeah. I might get tunnel vision. There's a friend of mine who's a cameraman, and he's gotten tunnel vision a few times. When you watch a movie, you'll be like, oh, the camera work was awful, and I'm like, well, okay, I didn't even notice the camera work, even though I'm one of my things I do is operate a camera, but I don't notice because I was into the story. Whereas a person might get so tunnel vision about something that they're not seeing the bigger picture.
Okay.
All
right. I would agree with you there. I think it makes sense to open it up. There's at least it's more broad scope of to who thinks the best is what. I think this is going to be an issue in some categories we're going to talk about, but and then Oscar membership, a membership in the Academy. Would you make any changes to the way they let people in? Sounds like you have to go through like two different
Here's
levels.
the deal:
of,
the academy, it's their thing. Do you know what I mean? It's like whether or not we want to give it credence and actually believe that they are the primary decider, or decision maker of what is quality and what is not quality. That's our choice. It's their choice to operate it how they want to. I would say if we think there's something wrong with the system and that there's a better one out there, let's say like what's another one? There's Golden Globes and there's the other one
People's Choice Awards.
People's Choice Awards. If we think those are better, then we should, use our voice, use our choice of what we're going to consume, as a statement of being like, okay, well, maybe I don't value what the Oscars have to say.
Okay.
So basically, we value the Oscars because of the name, not because of the system of which they make their decisions.
Yeah, to me they're like the United Nations in the sense that they're just like an amalgamation of people who are in a lot of cases experts in their field, and they carry a whole lot of social capital because the different governments of the world pay attention to what they have to say. The big movie studios care a lot about what the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences has to say.
But do we as consumers, you and I are consumers, we're not in the industry.
Well, I'll be honest, when I see a trailer that says Academy Award winner such and such, that does get my attention.
So you're saying that there is credence.
Yes.
So, yeah. So, okay, there you go.
If I was involved
So we're saying that there is a correlation between what the Academy says and quality, but we're saying that it's not perfect.
Yes.
But that's great because now there's other options to decide that too.
Correct.
So I might say to myself, I'm a casual moviegoer. Let's say I find the Oscars are too artiste. They're looking for those things. If I looked at two things and was like, that one won an Academy Award. That one won an Oscar. That one won a Golden Globe. Golden Globe seems to be a better indicator of what I would prefer. So maybe I'll just go see the one that won the Golden Globe.
Which is interesting because it's a bunch of there's like a group of like 87 reporters that are the ones to decide the Golden Globes.
Sure, I was just throwing it out there. I don't understand how any of them work.
Okay,
but I'm just saying, like, because there's multiple ones, we can essentially choose which ones we give the most value to.
Sure.
I know that traditionally the Oscars have been kind of sort of the big chief in that world.
Yeah,
but they don't have to be. So instead of people complaining, Oscars, you should change yourself. Well, just ditch the Oscars.
Okay, but
it's they want to change the Oscars so they can keep the name Oscar, because it has that value in the name itself. But you could just be like, okay, forget the Oscars. They're no longer they no longer represent quality as I see it.
I see what you're saying, but let's just humor me here. If you were to make a change to the how people get into the Academy, even
let's say I was there,
because I know what I would do.
I can't think of anything other than, I mean, if it is what it is, like they're basically saying we are a group of I guess you could say vetted experts in the field, and we're the ones that make these decisions. You can decide if you care or not.
Because for me, I would get rid of the whole review process for membership. If you're nominated or win an Academy Award, that should be enough to just give you membership.
Sure.
The fact that there has to be this double-level review process.
Okay. Fair. So, but you say that there's also people that have not necessarily been nominated.
Correct. So you have to be sponsored by two members of the Academy.
So I guess there's a lot of, it's a lot of sort of who who your buddies are. Do people get along with you? Do people hate you?
Yeah, I think I might probably get rid of that too, because you could argue that, like, grandfather the people who are already there because you got in before.
Or people I don't like his politics. I like his politics.
Yeah, like I don't think that should matter in terms of.
No, but I bet that does happen.
I'm sure. I'm
sure that also happens when it comes to voting.
I bet it definitely has. But anyway, in my opinion, if the Academy is meant to represent the excellence in film and the best in film, just have the people who have achieved that in there. Mm-hmm. And if there's probably special cases of people who are like producers or people who work in the movie industry that aren't really within those categories. Sure. Then like have a way for them to get brought in.
Sure. Kind of on essentially a consultation from another angle.
Yeah.
If somebody went to make a movie and nobody saw it, but it won an Oscar, did they really win when somebody made a movie that didn't win the Oscar, but millions and millions of people saw it, and it made a lot of money? Who won there?
So what can we say in summary here, Asian John?
That you can't please everybody.
Yeah.
That's really that's it's. There's no point of even saying whether it's flawed or not flawed, because they're all flawed, because they don't represent everybody.
Okay, we're back in 2019.
Oh, that was a trip and a half.
Yep.
I feel like I've learned so much and yet so little.
2015 is
It's 20 fine team.
20
Last year was 20 great team, but this year everything's fine.
Yep.
It's 20 fine team.
Just fine.
and as the Lego Movie Part 2 taught us, like it's okay for everything not to be awesome sometimes.
Oh,
Yeah. We can just accept it, but it means we can soldier on.
Yep.
We
Yeah.
can rebuild faster, stronger.
So now that everyone's refreshed on how movies get nominated for Oscars and how the Oscar voting process starts, it's time for us to essentially review all the candidates for Oscars for 2019.
And all the candy dates. And this is the kind of food that you want to bring to your Oscar movies.
Yeah.
So there you go.
More popular than popcorn.
Yeah, watermelon slices, actually.
Oh.
Yeah.
So we've been fairly harsh critics of the Oscars in this podcast in the past.
worst. Sorry.
Mainly
Oh.
because from my experience having watched them for 10 plus years now, is that movies that are part of nerd culture, especially superhero movies,
Yep.
which are becoming increasingly popular with the mass audience, continue to seem to get little recognition from the Oscars or from the awards crowd. So it's seemingly more and more each year that there seems to be this gap that's growing between like what audiences like and what the Academy likes.
Yeah.
And it's interesting this year. They're trying different things to essentially keep people watching the Oscars. They're keeping the runtime down to 3 hours, to the point where they're choosing to actually present some of the awards during commercial breaks, and they're going to
Yes.
like live stream.
Which I am not happy about, but I'm sure we'll get to that soon enough.
Interesting.
Well, let's get into that. So like they've
Alright.
announced that there's 24 Oscars that are given every year.
Right.
So their logic is instead of cutting out the stupid extra stuff they put in there,
Yeah.
or cutting down some of these speeches, or making the performances shorter for the songs. So like let's just completely like cut out some of the awards in the ceremony. So
Which someone offered a really good solution online. They're like, give out the Oscars and have the speeches on a different night. Because then people can tune into the things they want to watch, and they can listen to the speeches if they care, which not many people do.
Right.
So,
yeah, yeah,
now I saw people freak out about the categories and
Yes.
apparently the Oscars have said that it's on a rotation. So like every
Right.
year they're gonna choose essentially 4 categories at random
Yeah.
to leave out of the ceremony. But Ben, the movie buff, I'm sure you have comments about some of the ones they're leaving out this year.
please.
Yeah, from what I was able to see today, I was as strong a word as it may sound, I was devastated to see that best cinematography and best editing are being presented on commercial breaks. I understand why. I get it that it's because the people that win these awards are not the same celebrities that win for like directing or maybe sometimes writing, and especially in acting.
Right.
But as I think it was Guillermo del Toro said on Twitter, he said cinematography and film editing are so integral to film, like a lot of other things, like writing comes from writing, right? Before films were a thing, and this and that. But cinematography and editing are so integral to the film process that those are 2 of the awards that I'm always excited to see every time who's going to win them. Especially last year, I was so hoping that Blade Runner 2049 was going to win, and it did, so that was so exciting. And now this year, like I'm not sure. Well, I know who's going to win for best cinematography. It's going to be Roma, without a doubt.
What is Roma?
Roma is
We'll get into that.
Okay.
yeah. So, anyways, Roma's going to win that. For editing, I'm not sure, but yeah, those 2 awards, like it hurts me to know that they're not going to be on the with everything else that they are getting
Especially
demoted to commercials.
There's a lot of movies that you will go back and watch, not because the actors are still great, but because the cinematography is so landmark.
Yeah.
Like, I think people keep recommending Citizen Kane to me because the cinematography is like a good setup for what came later. Like, there are milestones in cinematography.
Yeah, and very influential too. Like there are
Right.
so many things that movie that did that. Yeah, I feel like when you're watching a movie, there are many things that you're watching, but one of the things that like you can't not watch is the cinematography, is the
Yeah.
way it looks and the camera movement and this and that. So that kind of bothered me. And I mean, yes, if they're gonna change the Oscars like once in a while for like, oh, next year it'll be different categories that get
Best actor gets shunted.
yeah, best picture gets done during
and then
a commercial
it
break.
goes to Leo. It would have gone to Leo that year.
That's right. Yeah, Leo gets it during a commercial break. So, but yeah, I'm disappointed by that. I really wish they'd they would keep those in. And I mean, it's tough because no matter which categories you pick, there might be some people kind of complaining. But cinematography and editing, I would have kept that without a doubt as part of the show.
Yeah, I'm not as hurt about it because if they hadn't announced the addendum that yes, we're going to rotate the ones that are, and then they're also like streaming the presentation of those Oscars during the commercial. So if you're watching it on TV, you can, I guess, open your computer and watch.
Right. So basically, if you're going to watch the Oscars this year, watch them on a live stream.
Yeah.
Which is just silly.
Yeah.
Like, you have too many commercials when.
Yeah.
So it seems like this year with the Oscars, there's actually been more like news about the ceremony itself than the nominees, because there's all this stuff about the length of the program, but then there's also all this stuff this year about the host.
Yes.
So Kevin Hart.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
He was originally announced as the host, and then like a lot of people as of late, social media tweets from years back that were considered controversial, essentially led to him that he wasn't fired. He chose to step down.
Yeah.
The Oscars asked him to apologize for his previous tweets and he said, no, I'm already apologized for it. I'm not going to do it again. So he chose to step down.
And it's kind of funny because if you know Kevin Hart, he's that kind of dividing personality anyways. So it's one of those things where you kind of just expected, like, yeah, of course, it's like going back on maybe like Jonah Hill's tweets. He probably tweeted some really offensive stuff, but that's his personality. That's who he is.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's just it's the culture of like what happened with James Gunn and some of these other people. It's just the reality is that essentially if you're put in a position of the spotlight, I guess you haven't done anything bad ever.
Exactly. Yeah. You just have to be completely clean.
Not human.
That's right. Not human.
So after Kevin Hart stepped down, Ellen DeGeneres invited him onto her show to try and clear the air, but then he kind of used it as a way I was made into a victim, and it just made it all more confusing and complicated. So now the Oscars have decided they're not going to have a host this year.
Interesting. All right.
I'm very curious to see how it plays
I'm
out.
curious, Ben, the movie buff, as I would say the most movie buffy of us.
Now, will they have an MC?
No.
Nope. They from what I read, they will have they've already announced the actors and the performers that will come on to present different awards.
Okay.
But they're not going to be there long enough to be established as a host. They come on, they're like, for the award for this, blah blah blah. But then after that, another actor is going to come on and do the same thing, and another actor is going to come on.
Interesting.
So yeah, they are going hostless.
True democracy.
It's a whole bunch of people just going on one at a time.
If I'm being honest, I'm happy with that because the last two ones with it was Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah.
I just found his gimmicks were so annoying, and if you're talking about cutting down the runtime,
there you go.
Just have the announcer, and now to present this award are these people.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm interested about it. I like the I'm a creature of comfort, obviously. So having a host would be nice, but the fact that they're changing things up, I am interested to see how it plays out. And yes, like you said, cutting down time. I bet you anything, maybe it'll be 10 minutes shorter because while the opening monologues are fun and all, and sometimes they've done some really interesting things. At the end of the day, we're there, I just want to see who wins the awards.
Yep.
I'm there for a celebration of film, and I know there's lots of jokes and this and that, but I just want them to get to the nominees are, the winner is, the nominees are, the Oscar goes to. So I'm very curious, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, because that is one thing that comes under fire every year. I've gone to do Oscar research on the Oscars after they've aired. Thank you. After they've aired. It just seems like everyone always complains about the host was okay, but then they made this joke and I didn't like them, and the host
so
always come
this
under
year
fire.
you will only be able to complain about a specific section, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
It's just the host. There was no host.
That's right. Or they're going to complain about the fact that there was no host.
Oh yeah, exactly. Someone,
geez,
the people
guys,
who whine will whine about something.
Exactly.
And so you're just you know what? Fine.
So we're going to talk about all the categories where nerd culture films or movies we've talked about on this podcast are nominated.
Nice.
And obviously we're not going to talk about all 24 because guess what? Comic book films aren't nominated for a lot of these categories.
Oh, man.
and not just comic book films. That's fair. Nerd culture. This is a show about nerd culture.
Yep.
We put the nerd culture under the microscope. So we're really taking a look and see where
and we looked at the Golden Globes under the microscope. It's not fully gold, guys. I'm so sorry. That microscope has just broken so many dreams for me.
And so just to clarify for people, we're talking about the 2019 Oscars, but it's the celebration of films released in 2018.
Yes.
So these are movies that came out last year. So here we go. Nominated for costume design are two films that we've talked about on the show. Black Panther and Mary Poppins Returns. And then the other 3 movies, I've heard of The Favorite. I've heard of Mary, Queen of Scots, but I haven't heard of The Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
Oh, I watched it.
Would you say it has better costumes than other Black Panther or Mary Poppins Returns?
Maybe. I don't know.
Like I know what they meant for costume. Like period pieces force you to have a very high level of skill in terms of costume design.
Yeah.
Black Panther, I think, did a really good job of mixing several tribal costumes in a setting that made sense.
Yep.
Like the way that each of them worked, the way that each of the costume, like superhero costumes are difficult to get right. Tobey Maguire. Like it is difficult to do something well. And so when you get to the level of like costume design that we have now, or like thinking back to Lord of the Rings when they put the meticulous effort into it, it is worth celebrating.
Yep.
So I think in terms of the amount of costumes and the variety, Black Panther is definitely a good contender for it, as is Mary, Queen of Scots, but everyone's done period pieces. This is kind of something new.
Exactly.
I think
Period pieces-
everything except Black Panther here is a period piece.
Yeah, they normally tend to win. So it'd actually be kind of cool if Black Panther won it because, like you said, there's the mixing of the tribal cultures and whatnot, and the fact too that there's a lot of stuff that they're creating, right? I mean, like the Black Panther outfit is pretty cool. It's pretty badass.
Heck yeah.
Right? So
yeah.
It's a lot of CGI though. So.
Yeah.
No, fair enough. But like they made a few suits.
Yeah. Well, Black
It's
Panther
suitable.
has 7 Oscar nominations.
Okay.
So
wow.
this might be one it actually wins. Maybe.
Yeah. No, that's right. Yeah, I think this is reasonable.
People won't poo-poo it.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, original score: Mary
Ooh.
Poppins Returns,
Yeah.
Black Panther,
Yep.
Black Klansman, If Beale Street Could Talk, and Isle of Dogs. Now, I've seen obviously the 2 we just said I saw, and
Nice.
I've also seen Isle of Dogs.
Cool.
And outside of the theme song for Black Panther, I don't remember much of the score.
I also don't remember much of the score. Like I remember a lot of Isle of Dogs as that kind of like Wes Anderson. The really like intense like music and like kind of like almost awkward music that just fits the Wes Anderson movie style. It's just like music. And then there's some quiet.
That's right, yeah. I have to be very clear about something here. Like, I don't remember... I still have yet to see Isle of Dogs.
Right.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I know. It's been a while. I've been waiting to watch it with Timmy. so
You'll
hopefully we're gonna
have
watch
some
it.
good
Yeah,
laughs.
I really enjoyed it.
So I do have to see that. Black Panther, the music, from what I remember, was fine. But Mary Poppins, to be completely honest, guys, I was so excited for this movie. And the movie's fine, and the music is fine, but it disappointed me a bit. Like I was hoping to like hum to the music after the movie, and I was like, I only remember one song, and I don't think it's deserving of that nomination.
No, and I agree with that because I remember 2 of the songs as being, that wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
Like I enjoyed like the Lamppost song and like one of the other ones, but like Topsy Turvy and like the bass song I found mildly irritating and really forgetful.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's like it's the last song. It's like the Nowhere to Go But Up is the only one that I remember. All the other ones were so forgettable. I would totally, if someone were asking me to do my Oscar nominations, I would take Mary Poppins Returns out of there and I'd put A Quiet Place in there without a doubt because I do like the music. And yes, it's not like a big orchestral thing or whatnot, but it's like it's the subtlety that it kind of creeps there, and I still remember that.
The question becomes, what is the purpose of music in film?
Yeah.
The purpose of music in film is to reinforce the theme or bring increase immersion.
Yep.
And if that's the case, The Quiet Place ticks all those boxes.
Absolutely.
But-
I
So
agree.
it's a snub for you. That's not nominated.
It is. I would have given Quiet Place like 5 or 6 nominations. I'm glad it got 1, but I wish it got more. It was way more deserving.
Of
than
these
the one it
nominees,
got.
I want to give it to Isle of Dogs.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because
Okay, yeah.
I agree with everything you said about Mary Poppins
Yep.
and Black Panther. So of the 3 I've seen, I got to give it to Isle of Dogs.
Cool. Got to watch Isle of Dogs soon then.
Yep. No, it's very very thematic, and then they throw in some very like some of the songs that don't quite fit, but they fit perfectly because it's a Wes Anderson film.
Yeah.
So
Moving on to sound editing. So Black Panther's nominated again.
okay,
Yep.
Bohemian Rhapsody,
Uh-huh.
First Man,
Yep.
A Quiet Place,
Damn straight.
and Roma.
Yep.
Now, I've seen Roma, I've seen Bohemian Rhapsody, and I've seen Black Panther. I have not yet seen the other 2.
so
Quiet Place is on Netflix now,
I would say
though.
Quiet
Yes.
Place and Black Panther are really good for this list because of Foley. There's a lot of
Yep.
sounds that they had to create in order to create these worlds, and there wasn't a moment where I was like, well, that doesn't sound like it fits.
Okay, sound editing versus sound mixing. Do you know what the difference is?
Yes, because I've been asked this so many times. And
Perfect.
I had to look into it. Like I have like a very like nutshell answer, but my understanding is this: sound editing are the actual sounds that you hear. Every
Okay.
single sound that you hear, however loud, however small, wherever it comes from, however you create it, that is sound editing.
Okay.
Sound mixing is when, like, is referring to, like, on a mixing board, how, like, you do the final mix of a movie and you have all the sounds and you're deciding, like, how much of this do I want, how much of that do I want? Because obviously if you have, like, in something like Mad Max Fury Road, for example, if you can hear the
Just
music
cars.
but you can't hear the cars or this or that, well, that's not a good mix, right? You
Right.
need to kind of evenly balance everything out, and that's why, without a doubt, I don't think it's going to win, but I'd love to see A Quiet Place win this award, because this movie, like, sound is so important to this movie.
Is it the only nomination it has?
Yes.
Okay, so
it's the only one.
based on that alone,
I
Yeah.
would love it to win.
And one of the things that I love about the sound so much is that there are actually points in the theater. I remember there are cases where, because the characters have to use sign language, that there are actually cases where you can hear them kind of talking like this. They are whispering ever so silently, and they're doing that, of course, because it feels normal to talk, but they can't talk any louder than this, or the aliens will come and kill them. So there's actually
yeah.
like a lot of cool subtlety that when you watch it for a second or third time, you hear things that you didn't hear before, and there's just, I feel like there's so much depth there that I don't know if everyone's gonna hear, but they should, and they should make it win.
Roma might win this because the sound, the sound mixing or sound editing.
Yeah.
all the different sounds that are used in Roma are very intentional as well.
Can
That's
someone
right,
give me
yeah.
a 2-sentence rundown of Roma, just quickly? As
It's a semi-autobiographical movie about Alfonso Cuarón, the
Okay.
director who's from Mexico,
Yep.
Okay.
and his growing up in 1970s Mexico. And it follows these two women, basically the mom of a family and a housekeeper. And without really spoiling too much, it really just kind of goes through, like, I guess, like a good 6 months of their lives and the ups and downs of the families.
Cool.
But it is more
Perfect.
importantly about, like, yeah, but both women are very important there, but it's the housekeeper, that the one that would normally be like a minor character in other movies. She's the focus. She's the one that we're watching things go through. We're seeing, like Mexico in the 70s, and how she deals with certain things that affect her in her life.
Perfect. So now I have that kind of nutshell idea going
It has
forward.
10 nominations.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a Netflix movie, so
Yeah.
we're really like
Oh
moving
my
into
goodness.
this.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
I actually
think
watched
it'll
it
do
at your
well.
place
Oh, interesting.
with our friend Minty Python.
Oh, I love it. Love it. Minty fresh.
Oh man.
Minty Python, if you're listening to this, well done.
Yep.
You've managed to catch a movie that I haven't.
Way to go.
Moving on to sound mixing, it's a lot of the same people. Basically, A Quiet Place is replaced by A Star Is Born here.
Ouch.
And in the case of A Star Is Born and Bohemian Rhapsody, they're both quasi-musical films.
Yep.
So it makes sense that there's obviously a good mixing going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen Bohemian Rhapsody.
Mhm.
I have not seen A Star Is Born.
I have. It's good. Worth seeing.
So I don't know. In this case, I don't know who to give it to. It'd be nice to, just for the sake of, because there's never been an MCU movie to win an Oscar.
right.
So,
yeah. Exactly.
Again, I'm imagining that if Black Panther doesn't win any, it'd be a shame. But this is one of the ones that, from what I can remember of the movie, it'd be nice to get it. But
Yeah.
maybe this is one of the ones where Roma or one of the musicals will win.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually, off the top of my head, I'm going to guess Bohemian Rhapsody. And I'm going to say just because music is such an important part of the movie, and the fact that a lot of the performances that they do, like, once again, there's a variety of, like, them playing certain songs live, them, like, recording songs in
I
the
was
music
about
studio.
to ask, is that the case? Do they mix the, like, seems like an edited song put over? This is like as if you're sitting in the crowd listening
Yeah.
to it. Okay.
And then the other thing we got to remember too, because this is for sound mixing.
Mixing,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, for sound mixing. Fun fact: people were wondering, like, when you hear all the Queen songs, they're like, wow, Rami Malek must sound exactly like Freddie Mercury." Not exactly. They used Freddie Mercury's vocals.
Okay.
They used a guy who sounded like Freddie Mercury, and then they used Rami Malek's vocals, and they took those and they all kind of, like, just put them in a blender, and that is what you hear. You hear
Amazing.
3 different voices. So when you hear those songs, it's like, it sounds like Freddie Mercury, but if you've listened to Queen as often as I have, you still hear slight differences here and there, and it's because it's not just Freddie, it's 2 other guys that are lending their voices.
Wow.
So I wouldn't be surprised if that kind of gives it a
The technicality behind it.
level up in possibly winning it.
If people know who are voting, know.
Exactly. That's the thing, right?
It's
Yeah.
like knowledge is everything. Like, you can vote for something based on popular opinion, but if you have an informed opinion, it carries more weight with you.
That explains why it's one of the official nominees, because
Yeah.
essentially people who are in that category vote for the nominees.
Right.
That makes
Yeah, yeah,
sense.
yeah.
Okay, cool.
But you make a good point. The general Oscar voting audience might not be able to understand those
Exactly.
technicalities.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Best animated film:
Ooh, I'm curious.
Incredibles 2,
Nice.
Isle of Dogs,
Mhm.
Mirai,
Yep.
Ralph
Ooh.
Breaks the Internet.
What's Mirai?
You've talked about this in the show before.
It's
It's
an
the
anime
anime
movie.
film about time travel and whatnot.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I know, but you've mentioned on the show saying that you wanted to see it.
Okay, 1 second. Putting that down on my list. Okay.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
keep going.
Check it
But
out.
I'm adding that.
Mirai, Ralph Breaks the Internet, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Yep.
So I think Pixel Patch, I can tell you want Spider-Verse to win.
Spider-Verse is not just revolutionary, just amazing and so full of heart. I really, really want it to win.
I think it's going to win. I
It's
think
won all the other awards.
Exactly, and I think that's what helps is a lot of sometimes these especially at the Oscars it can be kind of predictable when a certain movie or certain performance has won so many awards and then you get to the Oscars. I feel like that really influences.
Yeah, it has good
voters.
hype.
Mm-hmm.
And while I really, really liked Incredibles 2, it was on my best of 2018 list
Yep.
on the video I did last year. I do like Spider-Man Into Spider-Verse as well, but Pixar has won so many of the Oscars
It's
for
true.
Best Animated Film. I feel like that's going to... And Incredibles won for Best Animated Film in 2005.
Right.
So... It's a sequel, and Pixar's already won a lot of those Oscars, so I think Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is going to win. And it's deserving. I thought it was a good movie.
You want me to uncrush? Why you do this? What? You punch someone? You want to ask them to unpunch?
Yeah.
That's an Incredibles 2. Please
Now,
go watch it.
Mirai is the only one of these movies I have not seen, and I'm excited to see
Yeah,
that
me too.
it's actually getting like a re-release on February 18th.
Oh, really?
In the States. I don't
I'd
know.
like to
I don't
see
know
it,
what that
yeah.
means for us in Canada, but I'm going to be
Right.
in the States, so
Yeah,
I'm going to
yeah,
try and check it out.
Yeah. You'll
that's
be
right.
attacked by an alligator because you'll be in Florida.
Yeah.
You'll be in the middle of the movie, like, this is great, this is amazing, and then to your right, what's that? An alligator, and it attacks
That's
you.
right.
Okay,
but
well-
it's also there to watch part of the movie. Jumping
It,
people.
like laughs a little bit with you, bites
right.
you, laughs a
Yeah.
little bit.
That person looks good.
So 2018 was a great movie or a great year for animated movies.
Yep.
And I've complained in the past how anime films don't get enough recognition at the Oscars. Mamoru Hosoda, who directed Mirai,
Right, yeah,
was actually invited to join the Academy last year. They've created a system by which essentially people can be invited to join the Academy as like an honorary member.
Yeah, that's super cool.
So I don't know if his like membership in the Academy helped get his movie into
Yeah,
this.
maybe.
But yeah, this is a great race. They're all really good movies.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with what's being said here. Spider-Verse should win.
Yeah, I
not
think it
just
will.
because it's a good story, but because it has great animation and it has like legs behind it. Because it's winning other awards, so people like it's still placing the top 10 box office wise, even though
Yeah.
it's been out for way over
Oh,
almost
it's
2
doing
months
so
now.
well, yeah.
Well, it's not doing so. It's doing better than in other Sony animated films, but
Yeah.
in terms of like if you compare it to Incredibles 2, it's like
Well, no, for what but I guess given how it opened, like because I've been watching like box office videos about like some movies like they open strong, but then they kind of wither down and all that. But Spider-Verse is like held strong, so that's what I'm saying so well. It's like no, it didn't make $1 billion, but like its word is spread and more people are going.
You
to
would
see it
you
and
would
supporting
recommend it to a friend, whereas like I think only half the people watching Incredibles 2 would recommend it to a friend. They're like, it's good. Like,
Yeah, it's like everyone else is already gonna go see it.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
But Spider-Man, you're just like, no, please take these tickets.
That's
go.
right. Yeah, it gets in the IMDb top 250 now. I'm pretty sure it's like 26 or 27. So yeah, it's doing quite well.
Okay, so production design, we have 5 movies we've already spoken about: Black Panther, The Favorite, First Man, Mary Poppins Returns, and Roma. Now, I would actually give the edge to Roma here because I read an article after I watched the movie that basically says that Alfonso Cuarón basically like did everything he could to recreate exactly his childhood home. So,
Interesting.
and like even with extras in the movies, like if they didn't like look like they would have been part of his background, he like refused to add them in the movie. So, well, yes, like what's in Black Panther and Mary Poppins, and I never saw First Man, so I can't comment on.
But a lot of that would be you can fudge the information, whereas with Roma you have to be way more accurate, and that's a hard production.
and it's
Right.
black and whites too, so
That's
that
right,
kind of
yeah.
adds another element of like.
Yep.
Man,
they had
wow.
to they had to like design the environments a certain way, so they showed up a certain way in black and white.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah,
just
no, that's true.
way
Yeah.
more work, way more. Just bigger, like not bigger, but more thoughtful production.
Mm-hmm.
No.
And once again, I feel like this is one of those categories like costume design where like they tend to give it to period pieces.
Yeah.
Well, without a doubt. Why I think Favorite will probably win it. But I do agree that like I do like the production design in Roma, and it would be cool if it won that award because when I do think back to Roma, I do think back to like a lot of the set pieces, right? Like the house and like the kind of cramped driveway that the father has to get his car through.
Yeah.
That and like there are a lot of cool set pieces, and especially like the one sweeping shot of like a riot going on, and like you see the store, and then you just see outside of all the craziness that's happening. So there's a lot of cool production design on display in Roma.
Original song, All the Stars from Black Panther, I'll Fight from RBG, The Place Where Lost Things Go, Mary Poppins Returns, Shallow from A Star Is Born,
Yep.
and When a Cowboy Trades His Spurs for Wings,
Oh yeah.
The Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
Yep.
Now, wait, where the lost things go? Oh, yeah, that's when he's like thinking about.
No. That's you're thinking of the song about his wife.
Yeah, no, it's
No,
not that
It's
one.
that forgettable. You're trying to figure out which song
Which
is
song
it?
is
Like,
this?
I don't know.
Nothing's gone forever. Something it goes like that. It's Mary Poppins is singing it to them as they're going to bed.
That's right. Yeah. It's that song.
When they're like thinking about like the pot, the cracked urn kind of thing.
I think so.
Maybe.
It's anyway.
Yeah,
Yes,
I-
it's not going to win.
We're trying to remember here.
I would have put the last song in there, or even the song about his wife.
Me too. The last song I would have put. The last
Yeah.
song is like the most
There's
catchy song.
nowhere
Memorable.
to go
Ba-da.
but up. Ba-da.
So, having not seen A Star Is Born, do you think Shallow will win
Oh,
this?
absolutely. It's one of those. There are a fair amount of categories every year where you hear the song or you see the movie and you know that without a doubt will not be beat by any other movie. And Shallow, like, it's got to be Shallow. Shallow has been like such a big deal since, like, a lot of people have listened to it since the movie came out. And A Star Is Born, while it seemed like for a while it was one of the front runners, I don't think it's one of the front runners anymore. But that award for Best Original Song, I think it's going to win.
So now, question: when La La Land came out, and when the circus movie, what's it called?
Greatest Showman.
Greatest Showman came
Circus
out.
movie.
Yeah, same director, right?
Yeah.
The
same lyricist.
Did those win?
La La Land did. Greatest Showman was nominated and lost to Coco. Remember Me beat out.
Remember
This Is
Me was so good. Oh, that tugged
I
at
still
my
haven't seen
heartstrings.
Coco.
Oh,
Remember
dude.
me
Oh, Joe.
when
Coco's
you're
so good.
far away.
My name is Average Joe.
Right. Sorry. I always do that. Yeah. My apologies, Average Joe.
I accept AJ as well.
Yeah,
Right.
our
AJ
average
or
of getting
average,
that right is
Then
consistent,
what's
though.
your name? I don't know if I know your
Pixel
name.
Patch.
Right. Pixel.
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry. I'm still
My name? You don't know.
my name.
My name.
Yeah. The nerve.
Smells
Oh,
girl.
sorry. The nerve of you. Anyways, so yes, absolutely see Coco. But yeah, Shallow. I think it's a great song. I think it's going to win, without a doubt.
Visual effects. So this is like really like the one category where essentially comic book films and nerd culture movies get, because
Absolutely.
that's where the best visual effects are.
Yep.
So here we have Avengers Infinity War. Its
Yeah.
only nomination.
Yep.
Which I love Alan Silvestri's score for that movie. I don't know why.
Yeah. No,
didn't
it
get-
is good. Yeah, it is good.
Christopher Robin, which I find interesting because outside of the animals, there's really not much going on.
Yeah.
First Man, which again I don't know why it's on the list.
Yeah.
Ready Player One.
Yes.
Interesting.
And
Yeah.
laughably, Solo: A Star Wars Story.
No.
Solo, a Star Wars story.
I feel like Aquaman got snubbed in this category.
Yeah, you know what? I can see that because I saw Aquaman a few weeks ago, and it's a fine movie. But the visuals, like the visual effects
Really
in particular,
cool.
especially the battle towards the end, dude, like there are actually a few moments where I was like, "Whoa!" Like that is some
Coolest
really good
moment
stuff.
when they're diving with the red flare, followed by like that swirl.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Like-
yeah.
Now
I also
I-
like the big crab thing at the end too.
Oh,
That
yeah,
was really
yeah,
cool.
I know you're a giant Ready Player One fan, but I want
Guilty.
to give this one to Avengers.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I'd love it to go to Ready Player One, but here's the way I think about it. Steven Spielberg movies that have won Best Visual Effects. You've got E.T., you've got Jurassic Park, you've got I think there's another, maybe Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So it's not like his movies are hurting for more Oscars because like he's very Oscar friendly. So I'd love to see it go to Ready Player One, but I'd also love to see it go to Infinity War because once again like Thanos. Right, like I think I actually corrected Thanos from the way he looked a few movies ago.
Oh, yes,
to the
they
way
did.
he looks now, and yeah, like without a doubt, Thanos was a scene stealer of that movie, and you can thank the CGI for making him look that way and feeling
It's like a
real
true
in a way,
villain.
yeah.
Yeah, like I think a lot of the villains pale in comparison to Thanos when you realize how complete he is in terms of design and philosophy.
Yeah.
Like he is imposing.
Yep.
So much so that you go back and watch other Marvel movies and you're like, these feel like weaker villains.
Yep.
And then when you get to Thanos, you're like, wow.
Yeah,
like
it's
I
like
do
you're
not
right.
want to mess with this guy.
Like, I think yes, the effects for the motion capture and the visual effects for
Yeah.
Thanos are certainly the biggest reason why.
Yep.
But there was like one moment in Infinity where they're trying to get the gauntlet off him, and I'm like, wow, like in this one shot, you have Doctor Strange using a magic thing to hold one
Yeah.
arm, you have Spider-Man shooting a web to hold another, and you have like Mantis sitting on Thanos' head, and then you also have Iron Man in the shot, fully CG character, and I was
Yep.
like,
There's a lot
I was
going
like, I was like,
on.
this is where we've come to, that where essentially a shot like this, where basically there's like all these CG elements that look like they're actually there,
And
and they're
they're-
on a set that's
Yeah.
mostly CG.
And I would also say a moment that I love when it comes to CGI is the what's the name of the monsters, like the henchmen in the final battle that are trying to get
I don't
into
think they
the-
give them a name.
Yeah,
Dog,
'cause I was wondering, like, do they have a name?
alien dogs.
Alien dog things. There's a moment. There's a high up shot where like you see the shield and you see like a whole bunch of them kind of like going around the shield and like they're bashing themselves again and they're kind of getting through the shield, but then they get cut in pieces and whatnot. And like some of those wide shots, I was actually kind of like getting stressed out in my seat because I was like, oh my goodness, there are so many of them. They are so intimidating, and that shield is only going to hold them for so long.
Oh, yeah.
So once again, you got to thank the CGI for making you feel that way, because a lot of that is computer
They
generated
were
imagery.
they felt aggressive, like you did not want to be in the same room
Yeah.
with them. Like that was insane. Like that once again, like same feeling as Thanos. You just have this dread tied to
See,
it.
I would almost
Yeah.
argue that Ready Player One should be nominated for best animated film, because really, all the sequences that are in the Oasis, that's basically animation.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
there's not a single live action element
Well, fair,
there.
that's right, because it's not so much live action mixed with visual effects as it is just
Live action
visual-
and visual effects.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I guess what one of the things, like when I first saw the movie, and I won't spoil it here in the event that you haven't seen it, but let's just say there's a famous movie
Yes.
set that they recreate in Ready Player One,
Right.
that's made to look real. That even though it's like animated, it's not made to look animated, it's made to look like it's the actual set.
And it was
that was like
creepy.
one of the highlights for me too. Like I thought just seeing that, like I laughed like a little schoolboy. I was like, oh, this is so exciting, they're gonna do this, and they just captured it so beautifully. So I think that's probably why they kind of still veered in the visual effects category. But I get that. There's a lot of animation in the movie.
Yeah, so I'm voting for Infinity War.
Yep. Me too. Yeah, like I'll be satisfied if it wins. But Ready Player One. come
Pixel,
on.
how do you feel?
I'm good either way, actually. I really enjoyed Ready Player One, but I want Infinity War to get it just because I want more movies to be made.
Yeah.
Give them more money, make more movies.
That's right. It's gonna dominate the world.
And here we are, Best Picture, so we can actually talk about this category because there is indeed a nerd culture movie that is nominated for Best Picture.
Interesting.
So here are the nominees.
Is
I feel like
Infinity War on there?
I wish.
Me too.
Because this is, I've griped about this before. Part of the
Yep.
reason why they expanded the Best Picture thing from 5 nominees to 10
Yep.
is to allow more, air quotes, popular films to get
Yeah.
nominated. But what my experience has been is that they seem to just make more room for
the same kinds of movies.
Yes.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah. No, I
The
hear
art
you.
movie
I hear
shot
you.
with a camera inside someone's saxophone inside someone's garage.
Right, yeah.
It's like, come on.
Yeah, Best Picture goes to.
and as a litmus test, Pixel, as I read these out, you're gonna tell me if you've heard of this or not.
Okay, cool.
Because I'm sure Ben, the movie buff,
I know
has.
I could list them off right now, but
Yeah,
you
yeah,
guys
so
go.
yeah, you gotta go with the man who doesn't know nothing.
That's right. Yeah.
Have you heard of Vice?
No.
Okay, give the one sentence description of Vice.
Oh, geez. It's about Dick Cheney, who is the I think like vice president to
Played by Tom Cruise?
George Bush. What?
Play Tom Cruise?
No,
like
by Christian Bale.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
wait, as like a fat guy, right?
that's right.
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
he's the
got it,
makeup and
got
all
it.
that. So yeah,
Okay.
it's a
I have
political
heard of
movie
it then.
about the vice president to George Bush.
Right.
A Star is Born.
No.
Get these all ready here.
Yeah,
Bradley Cooper plays this guy, Jackson Maine, I think is his name.
'Kay.
He's a popular country singer. He meets this girl played by Lady Gaga, and as he's kind of decreasing in popularity, she's increasing because they kind of join forces. And
It's like the third time this story has been told in a film.
Okay,
Fourth time.
interesting.
Fourth time.
All
30s,
right.
50s, 70s, and now 20,
Wow.
2010s. Yep.
All right, so overdone. Love it.
Roma, the movie we talked about earlier.
Yep. Have now.
Green Book.
Nope.
So Green Book has this black man played by Mahershala Ali who goes to like play piano at these different like concerts and things.
'Kay.
And he has this, I guess like an Italian guy played by Viggo Mortensen who's kind of rough around the edges, and he's the driver for Mahershala Ali to go to all these concerts. So a bit of a driving Miss Daisy-esque idea,
Okay.
if you will.
Nice.
The Favorite.
Nope. Is it about a horse?
The Favorite is about...
There's a horse movie every year.
Emma Stone plays this girl who goes to... It's kind of hard to find the words here, but let's just say it's one of those like plays for power, right? You
Yeah.
have one girl who's like basically the queen, Olivia Colman. Rachel Weisz plays her advisor, but Rachel Weisz is really the one that's kind of in power, and Emma
Pulling the
Stone kind of
strings.
sees what's going on, and she wants to kind of rise in power as well.
Interesting.
So,
All
yeah.
right.
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yep.
Have you seen it?
No, have not.
But you've heard of it.
I have heard of
Yeah,
it.
it's good.
Black Klansman.
Nope.
Black Klansman.
And as I do this, I do a left hand look
I know, yeah,
at
but you
Ben
guys just
Moo, the
look at
movie.
me every time JP
It's
is
like,
like,
all right.
Black Klansman has a guy played by John David Washington, Denzel Washington's son,
'Kay.
who I guess
Oh.
like is trying to. There's like the KKK is still a thing in like the 70s, I guess, and like he's trying to get to the source. He pretends. I think he or someone else is like pretending to be a KKK member.
Wow.
But like, of course, he's African American.
Exactly. That was
So,
wow. That's
yeah, it's
gotta
about,
be
I guess, kind
super
of
tense.
You know, about race in the 70s and what's going on with the KKK.
Wow.
And then Black Panther.
What's that?
What's that?
I look over to Ben the movie.
Yeah.
The highest,
know this
the
one?
highest
You've never-
grossing film of 2018 domestically.
Oh,
yeah.
interesting. Wow.
Higher than Infinity War, which still kind of boggles my mind. But
I mean, it's only
can
20
kind of- I can
million,
kind of
so
see
you
that.
know,
Yeah.
it's not that far off.
Yeah.
Anyway, so those are all the nominees for Best Picture. Everyone seems to think Roma's I say everyone. The people that I follow on social media seem to think Roma's going to win.
Yeah.
And they're
Uh,
pounding their fists and they're frothing at the mouth.
I mean, I would be amazed if Black Panther won, but frankly, it's not even the best MCU movie of the year.
No.
It's
Yeah.
not the best comic book film of the year, so
It-
it's certainly
it-
not the best picture of the
It
year.
might win
definitely
because of politics. So
Yeah, but a lot of these movies have politics behind them.
that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
well, that's the thing, right? I think Black Panther. This is as people have said before. This is the Oscars' way of showing, like, hey, we can nominate comic book movies. We're not going to let it win, but we'll let it.
We'll
be.
not.
And
We'll
the
let
same
it
thing
play with us.
with like
Yeah.
Dark Knight. Like they gave the Oscar to Heath Ledger, which I'm glad they did, but
Yeah.
they did not give Dark Knight a Best Picture nomination because they weren't ready for it yet. But with 10 years later, Black Panther, I guess they're
It
ready.
only took them 10 years to
Yeah.
nominate
Only-
another.
Yeah, only 10 years.
Oh, I guess we can get the little comic book kids to play with us.
Yeah.
Those weird.
I mean, I'm
nerds.
just impressed that I've actually seen 3 of these 8 movies.
Yeah, I think I've seen 5 out of the 8. I still have to see Vice, Black Klansman, and Green Book.
nice.
So
Okay. So there you go. That's it, guys. That
Yep.
is our conversation on the 2019 Oscars.
Who's a what?
We obviously skipped over all the acting categories, the writing categories,
Yeah.
the directing categories, because none of the movies in nerd culture were considered noteworthy to be included there.
yeah, come on, Oscars.
Come on, guys.
So there you go. This is the 91st Academy Awards.
Yep.
9 more years. We're gonna get our 2027. We're gonna get our 100th anniversary.
Yeah, because I think the first Oscar ceremony was in 1927. So I guess, yeah, in 20...
Well, if we had the 90th in 2018, wouldn't that mean we have the 100th in 2028?
Right,
Yeah.
that's right. So yeah,
Alright.
it'd be
There
the
you go.
one afterwards, yeah.
I can't do math apparently, so
Yeah.
yeah. We'll
Anyway,
just take that.
You're
so
off.
the Oscars air this Sunday on the 24th. If you're listening to this in the future,
Oh, right.
you missed it.
Yep.
Sorry, guys. This is just the conversation we were having at this time in history.
We tried to warn you.
We already did some time travel in this episode, and I guess we're kind of doing more of it by
We've used up enough juice for the day.
Yeah, exactly.
So who knows? Will the Oscars turn out well without a host? Will the
Building catch fire.
Will it
randomly?
actually go under 3 hours? Will any of these nerd culture movies win awards?
Will we
find
have
out.
an Academy Awards next year? All these questions.
That's right.
This is it.
Will we have actors? In
Well, if
Hollywood?
if they start bringing that popular film Oscar,
That's right, yeah.
oh, that's a whole nother conversation. But
Yep.
Yowza.
that's it for today. Normally we'd go into the Bachelor, look at our mail, but because of the time travel shenanigans we're getting up to, we don't have any.
Yeah. And if you want to contact the show for questions or an idea for an episode, you can send us an email to,
batjarpodcast@gmail.com.
or you can Twitter tweet Twizzlers. You can Twizzler at us at
The Bat Cookie Jar.
on Twitter, on Twizzler. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, Stitcher Radio, Spotify. We recently added YouTube.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Average Joe. That has been a huge addition. SoundCloud, and wherever you get your podcast, we added it to YouTube. If we are not on your favored podcast listening app, just let us know. And if you listen to them on there, rate them. Because if you rate it, we show up more. And if we show up more people listen. And more people listen, we create more geeks and more nerds.
And subscribe.
Share our posts on Facebook whenever we post a new episode. That really does help a lot because we're like, hey, these two geeks are talking about this cool stuff.
So, Ben the Movie Buff, we want to thank you for being on the show with us today.
No worries.
And-
Thank you for having me.
And as a special treat, I'm sorry to cut you off, we're going to have you back again next week.
Yay! So looking forward to it. Thank you, Average Joe. Thank you, Pixel Patch, for having me.
Oh,
It's
thank
been
you, Ben.
Fun as always.
Yep.
Yeah, so next week, we're going to have our long-awaited review of Glass.
A shattering review
Yeah.
or a very transparent review.
Yeah,
there we go.
something like that.
Oh, man.
So come back to the Batjar podcast next week when we talk about Glass.
There we go.
And until that time, I'm Average Joe.
I'm Pixel Patch.
I'm Ben the Movie Buff.
Catch you on the flip side.
One pixel at a time.
See ya.